Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to look at population geography. Population geography, we know that is a branch of human geography. So let's dive into it. Today we are going to use question and answer method. We are going to learn population geography from some questions which, let's say, you may find them in exams or when you are revising, they are good. So let's dive into it. We have population geography. What is population geography? Basically, population geography is a branch of human geography that studies the spatial distribution, density, composition, and growth of human populations and how they interact with the environment. So that is basically population geography. So let's go to sources of population data and advantages and their disadvantages. Sources of population data. So if you hear about sources of population data, it basically talks about where can we find this population data? Where can we find this information about people? So number one is census. We can use census to find population data. We can also use census. Census, we know that is county people and is done after every 10 years. For example, here in Kenya, we do census after every 10 years. So, advantages is comprehensive, covers the entire population, and provides detailed demographic, social, and economic information. Limitations: it is expensive, it is time consuming, and prone to underreporting. Underreport is where you report data which is of less value, not of less value, but it's not, the values are lower than the actual population size. Let's go to surveys. Surveys is another source of population data. Surveys. So we have demographic and health surveys. For example, demographic and health surveys. Advantages: they provide detailed information on health, fertility, and social indicators. Limitations: limited sample size, may not represent the entire population. Let's go to vital registration systems. It's another source of population data. So we have some advantages here: continuous collection of birth, death, and marriage data. Limitations: incomplete coverage in developing region. Let's go to administrative records. Administrative records is another source of population data. Advantages is cost effective and frequently updated. Limitations: potential bias and incomplete data. International databases is also a source of population data. International databases is also a source of population data. For example, the World Bank and the UN. So the advantages are provide standardized and comparable data across countries. Limitations: data may be outdated or subject to estimation and errors. So quick recap: we have looked at sources of population data. We have census, surveys, vital registration systems, administrative records, international database, for example, UN and World Bank. Let's move to the next slide. Critic of demographic transition model, DTM, in explaining population growth today. We know basically demographic transition model talks about the transition of a country from being poor into fully developed. and it looks at the changes of population which it undergoes as the transition goes on. So demographic transition model provides a framework for understanding changes in birth rate, mainly changes in birth rate and death rate. Changes in birth rate and death rate as societies develop. And it still applies in the modern world. Let's look at the strength of demographic transition model. We have also the stages. We are going to look at them. The pre-industrial stage, like that. Strength offers a simple and logical explanation of population changes through 4 stages: pre-industrial stage, transitional stage, industrial, and post-industrial. So let's go to limitations. It is Eurocentric. We know that the model came in the European countries. So being Eurocentric, let's say for example, if you are in Africa, is somehow Eurocentric. Assumption of industrialization assumes that all countries will industrialize in a linear pattern. Yes, but we know currently we have some changes. A country does not necessarily need to develop in a linear stage, from pre-industrial stage, transitional, industrial, post-industrial. Like we may jump from pre-industrial stage to industrial stage because of different changes which are occurring today. We have variation in stages. Some countries exhibit hybrid characteristics that do not fit neatly into single stage. We have impact of technology and medicine. For example, impacts of technology and medicine. Advances in healthcare and contraception have altered the relationship between development and fertility. For example, if you look at the demographic transition model, it says that in pre-industrial stage, a country has high birth rate and high death rate. But currently, a country can be in pre-industrial stage, but due to contraceptives, we find that it does not have high birth rates and high death rates. We have also environmental and cultural factors. It neglects cultural, environmental, and social factors influence population growth. The demographic transition model remains as a foundational tool but requires adaptations. For the contemporary demographic dynamics, we have many dynamics currently. Let's move to the next slide. Influence of historical and physical factors on population distribution. We're going to look at how historical and physical factors affect population distribution. Population distribution mainly basically is how people are distributed across space. So we begin with historical factors and circumstances. We have colonization, migration patterns, wars and conflicts. For example, colonization, settlement in fertile and resource-rich regions, for example in Nairobi and Kenya. We know during colonization, there are those who settled in fertile lands. There are others who were sent in other regions. So somehow that influenced population distribution. Migration patterns, like for example, the Bantu community, name them. We have wars and conflicts. If let's say a certain region has conflicts and wars, people will tend to flee from the region. So it also affects population distribution. Let's go to physical factors. Physical factors is like the earth, how the climate, let's say climate, topography, natural resources, water availability. For example, if the climate is favorable, it will attract dense populations. Topography, alignment of the earth surface. Let's say a flat region, fertile plains, those ones support agriculture and will find many people settling there. We have water availability. For example, a place with water will attract many people because you can do many economic activities like farming, natural resources. Like if we have a mining site, it will tend to attract many people because there is employment. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Population measures. Population measures. It's like, what do we need to take, let's say, to control population, to increase it, to reduce it? Those are basically measures taken. So population measures and challenges. Population measures. So the common known population measures, we have family planning programs, public awareness and campaigns on reproductive health, economic incentives for small families, educational initiatives for women and girls. Challenges: we have cultural and religious resistance. Here, there are some cultural activities which go just against these measures because they have different cultures have different beliefs. So, and we don't expect all of them to adhere fully to our measures, to the measures of population. So, limited access to reproductive health services in rural areas, which are not even developed, find that the services are not that competent. High rates of poverty and unemployment, inadequate funding and resource allocation. Right, let us move to the next slide. Components of population change. Components of population change. And we have the basic ones: birth rate, death rate, migration, natural increase. Let me explain. Birth rate is the number of births per, just the normal definition, number of births per 1,000 people per year. So you must give the quantitative factor, the number of births, then per 1,000 people, then the duration per year. We have death rate, number of deaths per 1,000 people per year. Migration. Migration is a wide topic and we are going to look into it. So we have movement of people. It can be into, for example, into a country, that is immigration. Out, it is a migration of a population. We have natural increase. Natural increase is basically the difference between birth and death rates. We have also population momentum. It's population growth. Population growth continue despite of decreasing fertility rates. You may find that fertility rates are increasing, but we have the population is still high because of population momentum. It may be caused by, if in early times, like in the past years, the population was high. So even if the fertility rates goes low, the population will still be high. That is an example, a cause of population momentum. Let's go to fertility, mobility, population patterns and trends. So let's begin. Patterns, trends, and factors affecting fertility. As you can see, we are discussing the questions. It's like we are giving answers to different questions which you may find in population, one study population geography, or in your notes. They are also helpful, not basically for the people who are waiting for exams. So patterns and trends. We have declining fertility rates in developing countries, is supported by the demographic transition model. We have high fertility rates in many developing countries. Those are just patterns and trends. Let's go to factors affecting fertility. We have economic factors, educational factors, health factors, cultural and religious beliefs, government policies. For example, in government policies, if a government issues a policy that the maximum number of children a family should have is 3, then somehow it will tend to reduce the population. So That one comes in government policies. Let's go to cultural and religious beliefs. If a culture believes that many children are seen as source of wealth, then a family will have many children, hence affecting the fertility. Health care. If we have good health care where pregnant mothers are well taken of, then we may have the population increasing. Education for women, that one tends to reduce the number of the population. We have economic factors. If people are able to work and earn money, meaning that they can sustain their families, so the children will not be issue to cater for. Let's go to classification and illustration of mobility. Types of mobility. Mobility is mainly just movements. We have internal movements, external movement, temporal migration, permanent migration, voluntarily forced. Oh, basically types of movements. So internal migration, we have movements, they include movements within a country. For example, rural to urban. That is internal migration within a country. External migration is across international borders. For example, from one country to another. Temporal migration, you just move seasonally. For example, you visit your cousins for 2 weeks, come back. Permanent migration is a long term. You may go, you buy a piece of land, you settle. Voluntary migration is movement by personal choice. You choose. Me, I'm going to live in the USA. That is voluntary. Then you acquire dual citizenship. Forced migration is you don't want to migrate, but you are just forced. For example, conflict, disasters, persecution. It can also be because of government projects. Let's go to the next slide. List and explain any two criteria used to determine the allocation of funds to counties in Kenya. We have population size and poverty index. For example, if the population size is large, we expect the country to allocate more funds because we are many. Poverty index, it just measures how people, the well-off of people in the county. For example, counties with higher poverty levels are allocated additional resources to promote their equitable development to ensure that each county is developing as well as the other. So let's go to distinguish between mobility and migration. Mobility is general movement of people, as we have talked about, from one place to another. Migration is subset of mobility, involving the permanent or semi-permanent relocation. Let's move to the next slide. List and briefly explain the determinants of population change. Determinants of population change. We have looked at it earlier. We have seen we have birth rate, death rate, migration. Let's go to state and explain any two measures of overall health of population. Overall health of a population. When you hear about that, you think of life expectancy and infant mortality rates. So life expectancy is the average number of years a person is expected to live, but there's something I left here, to live as per the current trends. For example, different countries have different life expectancies based on the current trends of how people tend to live, the number of years people tend to live. So basically it's the average number of years a person is expected to live based on the current population trends of how people are living. Infant mortality rates is the number of deaths of infants under 1 year old per 1,000 live births. Okay. Distinguish between urbanization and urban growth. Urbanization, the process by which an increasing percentage of population lives in urban areas. Urban growth, the physical expansion, just the physical expansion and increase in size of urban areas. That's the difference. Let's go to list and explain any three measures of population change. Measures of population change. Here we had looked at determinants of population change: birth rate, death rate, migration. So we have measures of population change. We have crude birth rate, crude death rate, net migration. So crude birth rate is the number of live births per 1,000 people per year. Crude death rate, number of deaths per 1,000 people per year. Net migration rate, the difference between the number of immigrants. Immigrants are the ones coming into a country, and immigrants per 1,000 people. Explain the three environmental factors that influence population distribution. Right, we have climate, topography, water availability. Environmental factors, we have looked at them under physical factors influencing population distribution. Just simple things. Let's go to globalization. It's both a blessing and a curse. We are just discussing. So basically, what is globalization? It's basically interconnectedness. Globalization as interconnected economies, cultural and societies worldwide. For example, you see internet, you can talk to a person in another continent. So like we can share views, cultures, economy, societies. You can trade in another country. So what are the blessings? Economic growth through trade. For example, you can trade in crypto, forex, and the rest. Economic growth through trade, investment, technological advancement and knowledge sharing, cultural exchange, and global cooperation. We have cases like, what are the limitations of globalization? Basically, here you have to be open-minded. I've just listed just a few of them. We have loss of cultural identity. Our identities, for example, Africa, may be swept away by the Western culture. Economic disparities between developed and developing nations, environmental degradation, and exploitation of natural resources. Let's go to slide number 12. Is it 12? 13. Relationship between rapid population. So we have the relationship between rapid population growth and environmental sustainability. Rapid population growth is an increase in population size at a fast rate, rapidly, while environmental sustainability is treating the environment in a way, let me put it that way, treating the environment in a way that it will meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability to meet the needs of future generation. So we have negative impacts of rapid population growth and strategies for sustainability. We have deforestation and loss of biodiversity, because when we have many people, then there is need for land for settlement. Deforestation and loss of biodiversity, increased waste and pollution like municipal waste, commercial waste, industrial waste, because people are many and activities are going on, many of them. Pressure on water and food resources here to cater for the rising population. Strategies for sustainability. What can we come up with to sustain ourselves? Even though we have a rapid population growth, we can do family planning and education, educating people, adoption of green technologies, sustainable agricultural practices. Let's go to slide number 14. The role of international agencies in solving population problems. For example, we have United Nations Population Fund, the World Health Organization, World Bank, International NGOs. Let's begin with United Nations Population Fund. This one supports family planning, reproductive health, population policies. World Health Organization addresses health-related issues. World Bank provides basically funds. International NGOs. Advocacy and on-ground implementation of health and educational activities. Okay, slide number 15. Importance of study population. What do we gain? What is the essence of study population? So it helps in resource allocation, that is for the government, economic planning, also for the government, health and social services, for the government also, because where we have many people, we said that we should allocate many funds. So it helps also in health and social services. Urban and regional planning. Urban and regional planning basically is how can we plan urban centers so that it can accommodate the ever-rising population or the population in a given area. Environmental sustainability. Yeah, it helps us in coming up with environmentally sustainable practices. Yes, we have read them. Factors affecting mortality. Of course, we have healthcare, nutrition, economic status, environmental conditions. Mortality is basically the death rate. What causes deaths in a population? Healthcare. If it is poor, we are likely to have more deaths. Nutrition. Poor nutrition, more deaths. Economic status. If it is good, then the living standards of people will improve. Then they will at least have money for medical expenses. Then we're expecting them to live. Environmental conditions. If we have clean water, sanitization, and there is no pollution, then people will live. Endogenic and exogenic features causing death. Endogenic are within a person's body. Exogenic are outside. External factors. Endogenic, let's say genetic disorders like single cell anemia, inherited diseases like heart disease. Exogenic features, for example, environmental factors, lifestyle factors, social factors like violence. Let's go to slide number 18. Demographic transition model and country comparisons. Yeah, we looked at demographic transition model earlier. Let's quickly move through the stages. Stage number 1, high birth rate and death rate, that is pre-industrial stage. Declining death rate and high birth rate, that is transitional stage. In short, in transitional stage, we do away with the deaths. The number of deaths decline, but still the high birth rate are there. In stage 3, which we called it industrial stage, but now the birth rate starts to decline and also low death rate. So in stage 1, pre-industrial, we have high birth rate, high death rate. In transitional stage, now the death rate, where the death rates starts declining, remaining with high birth rate alone. In industrial stage, we have also birth rate declining. So both of them in industrial stage, they are low. So that by the time we reach post-industrial stage, we have low birth rate and death rate. For example, Germany. What are the critics? We looked at them. Strength provides clear framework for analyzing demographic changes. Weaknesses, Eurocentric, assumes that all countries will follow the same path. Follow the same path is be linear in a way, which is said that it may be challenging for a country to grow in a linear way. Contemporary issues, for example, migration changes, social norms. Number 19, migration effects on origin and destination. Yeah, this is a question which is you are likely to find in exam scenario. So we have it may come like migration effect, let's say on the area of origin, both social, economic, and political. So if you have the basic concept, it will become easy for you to apply. So place of origin or the source country. Positive effects: remittances boost local economies because when they go abroad, they work, they bring some money home. Reduced unemployment because people are going out. Negative: brain drain and demographic imbalances. Yeah. Another example of social, you may have the country which you were in before you went abroad to work, educated you and went to work abroad. Though you bring remittances, but you are physically drained. Let's go to place of destination, where now the people are coming to work. Positive effect: economic growth. Yes, it has because of high labor force, cultural diversity, and expanded labor force. Negative effect: we have strain on social services, housing shortages, and cultural tensions. We have an illustration of graph showing remittances from migrants to origin, population distribution maps. Let's go to slide number 20. Significance of study population. We have looked at it. I think this is a repetition. We are going to brush through the key points: economic planning, health planning, urban development, educational services, resource management, environmental sustainability, social policy development, disaster preparedness. Yeah. Let's go to slide number 21. Methods of mapping population distribution. Yeah, we may have choropleth maps, dot distribution maps. Now the difference between the two: choropleth maps uses color shading, which means the darker or the more paint in the map, the higher the population. But if the paint is like fading away, the lower the population. Dot distribution maps represents population UC dots, where each dot corresponds to a certain number of people. For example, if we have a large dot, we know that there are many people, but a small dot are few people. Limitations of UC population density maps: generalization, fails to capture variation within the region. Okay, yeah. Static representation, it doesn't reflect population changes over time. It's just like static. Misinterpretation, dense areas may appear overcrowded regardless of livability. Data accuracy relies on precise and current data. They may not be that accurate because if you are just presented with a large dot, then you know that there are many people, but you cannot be precise. So scale issues may not be suitable for small scale analysis. We say that small scale maps a large piece of land. Slide number 22. Difficulties in defining migration in Africa. Yeah, where are we having challenges? Like predicting the number of people who have moved from one country to another, or the people in a region. Number one, seasonal migration. A person just moving for a short season. Informal cross-border movement. Like informal, weak border controls leads to undocumented migrations. Conflict-driven displacement, like wars, people just suddenly run away. Circular migration, individual moving back and forth between regions. Data collection and challenges like lack of reliable migration data, traditional nomadism, movements by nomadic groups are often ignored. We have policy variations. Different countries define migration differently. Yeah, that's why it is becoming difficult in defining migrations in Africa. Let's go to another slide. Distinguish between the following terms. We have population geography and demography. We have population total and population growth. So population geography basically focuses on spatial distribution, density, and patterns of human populations. We looked at that earlier, and their relationship with the environment. Let's go to, then we have demography, which studies population structure, composition, and dynamics. Yeah, structure, composition, and dynamics. For example, the age of a person, let's say the occupation, is he or she married? Like demography looks at structure, composition, dynamics, such as birth rate, death rates, migration. Population total and population growth. Population total is the total number of people in a given area at a specific period of time. So the quantitative factor, total number of people. We have the specific area and the time factor. Let's go to population growth. It's the increase or decrease in population over time influenced by birth rate, death rate, and migration. Let's go to slide number 24. Immigration and immigration. Immigration basically refers to people leaving their country to settle in another country. Immigration, coming into a country. Population distribution and population density. Population distribution describes how people are spread across a region or space. Population density, I think that number of people per square kilometer, yeah, persons per square kilometer, yeah, or living per unit area. Population census and population projection. Population census is the official count of population conducted periodically. For example, we said that population census, we said that census are sources of population data, and like for example here in Kenya they are conducted after every 10 years. So we come to population projection. Like what is to project is to estimate future population size based on current trends. Yeah. Let's go to slide number 25. Three types of mortality in population studies. We have infant mortality, maternal mortality, crude mortality rate. Infant mortality basically is the number of infant deaths per 100 live births in a year. Maternal mortality, the number of women died due to pregnancy-related issues per 100,000 live births. Crude mortality rate, the total number of deaths per 1,000 people in a given population annually. Slide number 26. Demerits or the limitations of young population. Yeah, this is another question which you are expecting. If you are expecting an exam, just look for the limitations or the challenges of a young population, the old population, mainly young and old. So we have the advantages and also the limitation, but in our question we have the demerits. So demerits of young population: high dependency ratio, the strain on education and healthcare services, increased demand for jobs in the future, pressure on natural resources and infrastructure, potential for higher unemployment rates. There are also other points which your teacher has told you. Let's go to slide number 27. Challenges associated with an aging population. Here, mainly they ask young and aging because the middle one is working and is providing for them. But you can also be asked a question from them. So challenges associated with the aging population: increased healthcare cost, high pension and social welfare. And by the way, for the two of them, aging population and young population, they all are dependents. They depend on the working population. Shortage of workforce and economic decline, the burden on young generation to support the elderly, slower economic innovation and productivity, need for specialization, specialized infrastructure such as elderly care facilities, the potential strain on government budget, risk on labor shortage in critical industries, declining consumer markets for youth-oriented products, and also increased dependency ratio. Let's go to slide number 28. Relationship between fertility, mortality, and migration. Fertility. We know that fertility, mortality, and are related. So fertility determines the birth rate and natural increase in population. Mortality influences population size through death rate. Low mortality leads to population growth. Migration alters population composition by redistributing people across regions, affecting birth and death rates. So basically all these factors influence population structure, growth, and distribution. That one marks the end of our presentation today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you find such questions in your exam, you can just comment below. So subscribe. This channel we offer geographic related contents basically for our students. So subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. Welcome.